Hey everybody, Peyton Marine here, and stick around because we're going to talk about part two of my Nova multi-part series. In this one specifically, we're going to talk about the events I participated in, which was the classes and seminars and stuff. So, hey everyone, Peyton Marine, and I'm going to talk about the things I did up here at Nova, the actual events. So the first part of the video, I kind of just talked about some of the changes and things that are different this year. This is Nova's back after 2 years of not being around because of COVID. Yeah, so we kind of got that out of the way. Nothing really new or different to add to that. Now that this is the last day I'm making this video, it's Sunday. I'm still here at the hotel because um, I had another class late in the evening, and I had nowhere to put my stuff and everything because checkout is by like 11, and there's the award ceremony that's kind of later as well. And I think like the last events, and like I know model pickup from the Capitol Palace at 6, but the canteen is actually still going on till I think 10 tonight. So I mean, I could still head over there if I wanted to. So there's still some kind of social gatherings and it's a little bit kind of like closing out of Nova going on. But then also just get like kind of a good night's rest and then head out in the morning and not be super rushed to get everything going. Um, but yeah, so I guess the things I participated in this year. So unfortunately, didn't get to do any tabletop gaming like I would have liked. Um, but that's what it is. I'm planning next year, hopefully, to get some in. More specifically, hoping to get in Horus Heresy next year. Maybe do some other events, but that's going to be kind of the main drive and push is Horus Heresy. So I need to get my Alpha Legion up to speed, which you know I've got I'd say a year, but when it comes down to life and everything else getting in the way, oh man, I would hope I can squeeze out 6 months. And now that's not like, obviously 24 hours worth of 6 months, but um, I don't know. What do you want to say? Like hobby time? Ooh, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours over 6 months. Like if like every day, 2 to 3 hours, that equals up to what 180 days or so. So like 180 days worth of 3 hours work. I should be able to get an army together for that. um, but anyway, so this year participated in some Learnaments, which is where they get out a board game that you may have not played before and you learn how to play it. They do like a little intro to the game first, learn so you can learn how to play it, and then you kind of play through it, and then they kind of do like a tournament thing. If people want to stick around or not, usually they have a copy of the game that they'll give to winners, so they'll have like a couple copies usually. There was some that people didn't want to stick around, they left, and so they kind of just rolled off and kind of randomized, like you're 1, 2, 3, whatever, roll it. Okay, number two, you got it, good job. Um, but no, those were pretty fun. Kind of, I say out of my comfort zone because it forces. I mean, tabletop gaming also kind of forces you to meet new people and stuff like that. But um, it's a little bit different, I guess, with a board game aspect because everybody's sitting there learning how to play this board game um, together. No one else, for the most part, there was a few people that had played a couple times or whatever, but they weren't like experts or anything. So you kind of have that common bond and just kind of meet people and stuff that way. So that was kind of nice because this may be surprising. And I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it isn't surprising, but I'm very much an introvert in a lot of ways. Um, I'm warm, friendly, happy-go-lucky, happy to meet people. Um, when I meet them, I'm not like one that's super shy when talking to people or anything like that. But as far as like going out of my way to approach people or try to be like, oh hey, what's going on? Who are you? Nice to meet you. Where are you from? Like, um, I mean, I'll exchange pleasantries, but like I don't. I'm not one to just go out of my way and uh, I don't know, just chat somebody up, I guess. There's people that have, they call it like the gift of gab. Silver tongue is more like, I don't know, people that can convince people to do stuff. But anyway, or there's kind of like this saying of, oh, such and such, they're the type of person that they've never met a stranger, meaning they can be just so friendly right off the bat with people and everything that it's like they're old friends. Um, I don't have that gift, I guess. I can be, I'm like I said, friendly, happy, but I don't know. I almost kind of seem more reserved than anything, maybe, and so like I said, this kind of helped throw me out of my comfort zone, which is a good thing. So overall, though, good experiences. I will say that Root was definitely pretty fun. Um, didn't win the game, the box game or whatever, the free copy they had. It would have been nice to got that to take it home. My kids are way young still to maybe my older one, but it's a pretty complicated game for what it is. Um, so I don't really think that would have been really up her alley yet. And you pretty much, from what I can tell, need, I don't know, at least 3 players. I have to look if it maybe a minimum of 4. Um, I could definitely see where you may need 4, but I know that the 3, like the vagabond, the person that I was in the game, you probably don't need them. They probably aren't that big of an impact, depending. They can be and really throw a wrench into things. Um, and now that I think about it, they might have to be. You might have to have 4 because there's these certain tiles that the vagabond can only uncover. And when you do that, it uncovers like a build space for other people to use to build stuff on. And if he or the vagabond doesn't uncover that spot, then you can't build there. So then I don't know. Yeah, so you may have to actually have all 4 players then. I do know there's other factions though in the game. They have like expansions and stuff to it. So I'm not really sure how that all combines together. But anyway, so that was pretty fun though. Like I said, I enjoyed that game. Like specifically, I enjoyed just being the vagabond, and I don't know how that would work if you play other people and everybody wants to be like the same faction or whatever like that. How you resolve that, because they also, it's like playing a different army, pretty much. Like they all play very differently and have different rules, and if you have to play something that you've never played before, it can be a little frustrating for sure. Um, but yeah, so that was that. So let me talk about these seminars, right? So I took 3 painting seminars and or classes, seminars, and 2 just like talking seminars. So the painting seminars, the first one I took was Power Weapons, which was a games workshop. And then I took a vehicle weathering, and I don't know if it was called something else too, like weathering in distress or not, but it was weathering. And then after that, I had a seminar class on essentially building your podcast, which, I have a YouTube. I don't really have a podcast per se. This is, I guess, a sort of video blog, video podcast, kind of, sort of. So I was just kind of curious and interested because I'm sure some of those things would kind of port over, and a lot of it really kind of does help. Plus, I mean, kind of asked that because um, Carl was his name. What was his last name? I can't remember his last name, but he has Third Floor War is the website, and I can't remember if that's the same name as his podcast, but if you go to the website, you'll find it. Mostly does a podcast on RPGs. I guess he started with Malefax. How do you say it? I'm not sure. I don't play. Um, and that's kind of how he grew his audience, and then he started kind of branching into RPG stuff. But then more specifically, he's got an interview style to his podcast where he brings on like the game designers and asks them questions. But more specifically, what he was really pointing is kind of his little niche that he got into that kind of made him different from everybody else. Is like he wasn't really asking about the game specifically, like how the mechanics work, tell us about the game, the story, like all that kind of stuff. He was more like, how did you get into game design, and then why did you, how and why did you get into game design, and then kind of more like the reason behind that particular game, like, how and why did you decide to make this game? So he kind of asked like different questions, like his base questions are a little bit different from uh, what other people were doing. So that was kind of the biggest takeaway that I could get from that was essentially you kind of just got to do things, see what works, and then find what your niche is basically in your voice. I think he said it's like 40% hard work and then 60% luck or something similar, which is very true. I think you know the whole finding your voice thing and your reason for doing it, because that's gonna be your guiding principle, right? Is your reason for doing the podcast or whatever. Is gonna always be your beacon when things get tough or you just don't feel like doing it for whatever reason or things aren't going your way. Um, and within that, you'll find your voice, is what he said. So, I mean, I agree, uh, but um, I'm not really sure how to apply that yet because kind of my guiding principle, my beacon, if you will, my whole idea of having this channel and stuff is really just to share my passion and the hobby and things I'm interested in, and hopefully other people are interested too. Kind of gives them just some babbling, rambling voice or something to listen to while they're painting or building, and just to interact. People have questions. I share projects I'm working on, and somebody may be like, "Hey, that's really cool. How did you do that?" And then I'm more than happy to answer and share how I did that. Um, Very much do that all the time. Um, I will say the thing, and I asked this, and I don't know, didn't really have the biggest, best answer other than he said, whatever it is working in social, because like in social media, like I said, like I have a decent following there, but people coming over to the YouTube channel and subscribing and stuff is is not it's not there's not like a correlation, like people aren't coming over from these other Facebook and Instagram, and so like it's kind of like why is that? And so he said like, well, what's working for you on those platforms and bring it over, because that could potentially, that's probably your voice, and that's true, and but I am doing that kind of. I guess I'm not specifically just making a video showcasing the model, which I've done. And I was thinking about like my Alfarius that, spoiler alert, won an award here, which I'll be making a video on Capital Palette. It'll be separate, but I can do that, and that's fine. That's low effort, really. Put it on a turntable, take a video, put some music in the background, throw it up. People can look at it and be like, oh, cool, that's a cool model. How did you do that? I don't have this set up right now, unfortunately, to do like a painting video. And the hard thing with that is I am a one-man show. A lot of the other thing too is a lot of these people that were in the class and there are like teams. They're doing this with somebody else, and that other person, or the other one of the two of them, or however of them, usually almost exclusively are handling all the editing and putting the video together. So one person just solely has to do the content, so the sitting and the talking, the painting and recording, and then takes that. And a lot of times, if it's not like a live thing, they can, or even if it's live, when they re-upload it, they take the painting footage, the editor edits it, and then gives it back, and maybe the other person does like a voiceover, like, okay, so you can see here where I'm wet blending into this color and that color. That's a lot of work, and so I guess at that point, like I'm okay with the slow to no grow that I have going, because at the end of the day, I understand I do understand that it takes a ton of work to put into, and I've mentioned this before, to put into your channel to make it grow. Unfortunately, that's not something I can do as much without sacrificing essentially my home life. because I have 4 young kids, a wife. And they're a priority, 100% number one. So this is a side thing that makes no income, no money, and I just do it because I like to share like I said, my experience. Like, I don't care if this ever really makes money. I just want to be able to reach people and share my passion and my interests and to have that conversation. Because again, maybe it's just another way of breaking out of that shell because I am an introvert and this there's somewhat of a barrier because it's through internet and video and it's not like in person, but it's always good because when I come to places like this and I meet people that are fans. There was a time where I didn't have any video for almost a year because life and everything else was very busy, and unfortunately kind of this is the first thing that has to go when life gets busy because like I said, my family is priority and I have a extremely demanding job that I can't like just walk away from. And so those things will always supersede this, unfortunately. So there was that period of time, and when I came back, it was really kind of touching, heartwarming that the few people that do watch these or listen or interact were like, "Hey, man, it's good to see you back. I was worried. I don't know what happened. You just kind of disappeared." And I guess learning there, I could have made like hey, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm going somewhere for a little bit. I got to take care of some stuff. Um, but it was kind of sudden. I didn't really, and then I didn't come back. So, that's kind of, I guess, something in the future that happens. I know, okay, maybe I should do that because there are people that do care and are watching and interacting. To that point, coming here to Nova and again meeting people that are fans and meeting new people that I'm assuming hopefully are becoming fans and friends and contacts and stuff. But ran into another person that hadn't seen since last Nova, and I guess has been following along on my stuff and similar thing. I asked, like, hey, I was worried I hadn't seen you for a minute and was really kind of, was like, man, I hope you didn't quit the hobby or get out of the hobby or something. So again, like hearing that is just like, oh, okay, I am making whatever small impact um, that I basically am setting out. Like I don't need to make any huge waves and huge impacts. Like I'm definitely again by default I'm very introverted, so I'm not trying to become some super famous YouTube star or anything like that. So I just want to, I guess I'm just using as outreach to reach others in our community. And this is a great platform to reach far and wide. Knowing that, someday I hope to like make it out and go to LVO. And it'd be awesome to just run into somebody there, that is like, hey, I know you. I've seen your Star Commanders, or I saw your Alpha Legion project or your cool Armies on Parade project that you did. Like that was really awesome. Or I had a question on this thing and you actually answered me and helped me out with it. That's the kind of stuff that I'm doing this for. So that's my why. That's my guiding beacon. And unfortunately, though, like I said, like you know, this is like later in another seminar, Adam and Vince, they they're talking about game design and that them making games and stuff is like their third job. Like they have their day jobs, full time day jobs, and they have their YouTube, which actually makes them money. And then they have the game design they now called. They said the name and I forgot already. I want to say it's Snazzy Badger, but it's Badger something. I can't remember the first part. But anyway, so they have like 3 jobs, 3 responsibilities, um, which I do as well, except only one of them's paying me and the other can make my life miserable. I know, I'm just kidding. I love my wife and my family, of course, but happy, as they say, happy wife, happy spouse, whatever, happy life, right? Um, and I try to do my best, even though a lot of times I fall victim of prioritizing. Sometimes, so like I need to get this done, this painting, this project, and that was a big reason too why I had to step back from commissions, which was actually something that was bringing in an extra income, right? So it could be seen as a good thing, right? I'm bringing a little bit of extra. I'm doing some commission work for people, and for a minute there, I was taking on a decent amount of commission work, and it was paying okay, enough like to, like there's our food for the week, like pay for our grocery bill. That's money that then other things can go to other stuff, right? But the amount of time, because like I only like I don't I tried when I first started doing like a tier thing with commissions. Like I'm like, oh, base, you know, three coat minimum, and then I don't know, a whatever tier, mid tier, tabletop tier, and then like show tier or something. And I quickly found out that it's pointless, and nobody really cares for the most part unless they're just really trying to get a bargain. And even then, they still want the top tier, and they just want to haggle price. So I basically just came down to, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to do my best effort every time, because if I'm going to put, you know, brush to model, paint and brush to model, and then put my name behind it, it's got to be my best I can do every time at whatever skill level I am at that time. Um, and I definitely feel like I've produced that. I've done these commission jobs that I wish I wasn't giving those models to people, because they were some of the best painted stuff I've ever done. And but that's kind of like where I'm at with that, right? So I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it at my best effort, and that's also gonna help me, word of mouth and everything else, and get more work. Um, and it was working too. Like I said, like I was actually kind of surprised how kind of quickly it got overwhelming. And of course, I can turn away projects and stuff like that at any time, and when I was, but again, it was definitely a full time second job, trying to keep up and do stuff. And because another thing too is I want to do it in a timely manner. I don't want it to be like 6 months before the person gets their stuff. Like, and they want it quick too. They want it quicker than you'll be able to do. Obviously, most people want, like, oh, I want, if they could in a perfect world, they hand you the model one night and they get it the next night, all fully, golden demon painted. But um, yeah, so I had to put a pause. That was the first thing I had to put a pause to. But things didn't slow down in life. Things just kept ramping up. So it was good that I ended that when I did. And my hope is, I'm kind of steering back to hopefully opening up that opportunity again in a very, very limited quantity, because I still have my own projects I need to work on and get done. Um, yeah. So as you can see, I'm already rambling off on a million different things. But uh, yeah, so I did learn a decent amount from that. Like I said, it did port over for the most part. Had really good conversations with people and some networking. There's one other person that was there that does a podcast called Listening to Paint Dry, where they basically kind of do like an interview style thing, from what I understand. I haven't actually pulled them up yet. Um, and it's two guys, two individuals that basically have people on, guests and stuff. It sounds, I know they have guests on. I don't know if they only do guests or if they just sometimes just the two of them chat. But they have about an hour long podcast, and their idea is, paint an hour a night. So while you're painting, you can listen to them, and yeah, just have something to listen to while you're painting or working on something. Kind of like what I am doing with this. So if you're gonna paint 2 hours a night, listen to them and listen to me. But yeah, and it sounded like we exchanged information cards, and you said to reach out to him sometime, and I hope to reach out and collaborate in some way. I don't really do interview style anything on my channel. I haven't. Maybe I will. Um, I don't think it would be something I could do sustainably, because again, just life and stuff, especially when I'm at home and I'm making videos. Anybody that's watched the channel for any decent amount of time may have seen videos in the past or things like that where um, my kids pop in pretty consistently. um, like, school's about to start, but I mean, when I get home, they're getting home, so it's still, uh, yeah, them popping in. And then on the weekends when I'm trying to make a video or something, they're popping in because, hey, where's dad? We haven't seen him. it's the weekend. This is our time to, spend time before work and school again. So, um, anyway, so if doing an interview style something with somebody else remotely or whatever, it would just be extremely hard to do without like a consistent interruption that may derail or upset whoever I'm trying to interview. So, but once in a while, or like I said, me being a guest, maybe, I hope to collaborate and be a guest on their podcast and talk about whatever, hobby painting related. Yeah, that's I hope to go on that, and hopefully, at the very least on their end, that may bring some people over to come check out my channel and the Facebook and stuff. But the other thing I wanted to say about that too is with the Instagram and the Facebook and people not really coming over to the YouTube channel. And I just know a lot of that is because Facebook and Instagram is very low effort interaction. It's just there on your phone. It pops up and like, oh hey, cool. There's a picture of what he's working on. That's really cool. Like, love, care, comment. Awesome work, dude. And I appreciate all that. I do. I love it. It's awesome. And that's great. I don't know how many of them are actually coming over here and watching anything. Not many, because I can see how many views there are. And that's fine. Yeah, it's just it is what it is. Like I said, it's easier just to follow somebody's social media than it is to spend time watching a video of some sort. And that's why, like, I mean, my videos are definitely more me rambling about whatever that specific subject might be at that time, and the hopes is that it's essentially like, again, like a painting, hobbying kind of person just talking and you're listening. So, um, yeah. So let's see. So talked about the board games, talked about the seminar. I'm gonna get back to the other classes in a second. I'm gonna talk on the other seminar. So the one I went to last night with Vince and Uncle Adam was really great. It was on game design and content, and then they did talk a little bit on YouTube content and the YouTube stuff. I'm not going to talk too much on that because I kind of already just did. Some of that was kind of a combination of the two, and a lot of it, what they shared was kind of the same basic stuff. Like, you know, um, your energy, which, sometimes I know for myself can be kind of a drag when I've made videos where it's like 3 in the morning and I'm just like, I want to make a video. This is my only time, but I'm exhausted because the kids have just been like whatever all day and stuff like that. So, but that was one. Then they talked about thumbnails, having interesting thumbnails and titles. Conflict titles are obviously the ones that people are going to click on the most, and like ones talking about sunflowers and rainbows usually don't get clicks. That was kind of the big takeaways there. But the game design thing was really cool. I don't really have any plans on ever doing a game of any kind that I know of, but it was just really cool to hear their process and their talk on, when you start a game process, kind of one of the first things you want to do with your idea is make a one-page treatment of kind of like what is the game, what's the thing, but you don't get too much into the mechanics. And they said the next thing is to kind of figure out your one thing or action or whatever you want to call it that your players are going to be doing the most. And I can't remember what they called it. I want to say they called it like a loop or something like that. Like it was this, I feel like it was like the something loop, but it's like the player loop or whatever, like the one thing that they're going to be pretty consistently doing while playing the game. Uh, and then once you figure that out, you want to make sure that it doesn't get too like repetitively boring. Like it may be repetitive because they're doing it a lot, but you want to make sure that it stays interesting and it doesn't get uh, boring, because then that could kill your game. But the other big takeaway, which was something I found really interesting, was they mentioned don't make a heartbreaker game. Now, a heartbreaker game is a game that is essentially based on another game, but takes an element away or adds elements or basically tries to fix a game that you already like and you're trying to make it better and then kind of essentially rebrand it. So he's like, if you ever have to start explaining your game as it's like Warhammer, but or it's like Star Wars what's that? X-Wing, but or it's like Drop Fleet Commander, but if you have to do insert game name, but then your game is probably going to fail, or if it does have any impact, it's going to be such a tiny impact and then fail so miraculously, it's going to break your heart. And that's why I call them heartbreaker games, because they don't work, because a lot of people see it for what it is, and they're usually already playing those games anyway, so they don't want to just play a different version of that game. So yeah, so that was really interesting in that aspect. Um, Other than that, I mean, that was really just it was pretty good. Lots of Q&A. It was really good. Um, so yeah, so both those seminars were really good. Now let's talk about the bad, almost bad. I'll keep talking about the good here. So I'm not gonna, and this may spoiler or tease it or whatever you want to say. Um, why? Anyway, I'll just jump into it. um, the weathering class was amazing. Dan Osborne, he's from Portland, came out, awesome class. I learned so much, used techniques, products I never used, and am now going to purchase and use part of my painting arsenal stuff. And especially with this kind of weathering, losing my camera here. This weathering, it's um, I guess more of like a grimdark style, or even essentially more realistic style, not kind of like heavy metal, I guess is what they call the box art on Games Workshop products in particular. But yeah, awesome. His teaching style was very easy to follow. He talked about he used to be an elementary teacher, I think, or he was a school teacher at one point, and then was also a Games Workshop manager, but has since left Games Workshop. But um, yeah, I think the teaching experience especially helped a lot. He very much did a not like a do one see one teach one, but just did a do one or see one or do one see one teach one, right? So see one, then do it, and then supposedly then you can go teach someone, right? So he would do it, like show us, and then we would do it, and then just kind of like do that. I really liked that approach. So it made it really easy. Plus, he had a lot of time. I think it was a 3-hour class, which gave us plenty of time to work on stuff, which I think when I talk about these next ones will be a huge factor. So, um, yeah, nothing but great positive things to say about that experience. I wish I would have been able to take. There's a few other classes that I think he did a few other, but just other classes in general that were not by Games Workshop that I wanted to take. There was like a non-metallic metal that I wanted to take, but again, those were sold out and stuff like that. So the class I signed up for were pretty much ones that were kind of still available that I thought would be interesting. Yeah, so the Games Workshop ones. I think their biggest enemy was they were only 90 minutes. Um, and so it always felt rushed. The second one didn't wasn't as bad. So the second one was blending techniques. That one was not as bad. It was the same instructor or whatever, and he was a great guy and everything. He was cool. Um, and I guess the principles were pretty easy enough, right? And it was very similar to the power weapons class where you're doing a lot of just very slow build up to blend everything together. But the power weapon one just seemed like such a higher learning curve for whatever reason. And I guess mine turned out okay, but I definitely don't feel like it looked anything like his. His looked pretty awesome. The other thing I didn't really like about the power weapons one, like I said, it was jumped right in. It was like you kind of just you had to do it. Like he didn't show us and then we did it. He just did it and we had to like follow along or we were gonna be lost. Again, I think that had a lot to do with the time. Like if he had another 30 minutes, maybe made a 2-hour class, uh, could have potentially slowed things down a little bit and done like here, watch me do it. Now you guys do it. Uh, that could have helped a ton. the other thing with that class was we were using Grey Knight halberds, and he was using like the sword from, was it the Dread Knight, right? The Grey Knight's like baby carrier. And I get it because it's bigger so that we could see on the little screen that he was projecting on, but like that, I the other thing too is I get they can't give us all those giant swords, but like give us at least all a sword, not a halberd. It's just like this little tiny thing. Give us something a little bit bigger, a little bit longer to work with than this little tiny thing. We're trying to work this blend work thing for the first time for a lot of people. I don't know. I just did not like that class. I think there's just so many things. Like again, nothing against the instructor. I think there's just so many other things working against him. I'm not sure whose choice or decision it was to use the halberds. I think that was a bad decision, and the time. I think those were two huge things that worked against him. Uh, the second class definitely seemed better because we didn't have the issue really of the halberd thing. Like we had a bigger space to work with. We had a Stormcast Eternal with a long cloak on it, so that was a little bit easier to work with on the project. The time though was still kind of crunching there at the end though. The little hour and a half long courses go by really quick. You wouldn't think, but it really did fly by. So yeah. All right. Well, I guess that is it for now. I'm going to do another video after this, going over the capital palette, and how that whole went. Went well for me. About as best as I could expect, really. The last time I did capital palette, I remember they said that if you, I want to say they said if you medal, like if you get a medal in your category, then that usually means you're ready to move up to the next category. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure, but I couldn't really stick around. They didn't mention that beforehand at this one. I still am gonna take that as yes, that means time to move on, time to challenge yourself more once you get a medal. Like finalist is like you're right there. You need to hone something a little bit better and come back next year and then hopefully medal. And whether you get bronze, silver, or gold, um, essentially that means like you're hitting the spot now. You need to keep honing your skills, but you need to move up to the next level. Um, so I'm going to take that and run with it. I'm going to hope that that's what that means. And also going up the next level, the journeyman level, is a lot more people that enter that because a lot more people are kind of like in the in between, right? They're not master class, but they're past the apprentice level, which I feel like I was past the apprentice level, but I guess it kind of just depends on what it is that I'm entering. Because, like I said, my first year I made finalist, which is great. Kind of giving you a preview, I guess, of the Capital Palette video. Um, and then the second year I didn't make anything, and a lot of that I think I didn't really specifically paint anything that year for the Capital Palette, and I just kind of grabbed stuff that I just wanted to like throw in the case and have people look at, and they do some pretty awesome professional pictures of the models. So I was like, well, I like these models of mine. I wouldn't mind having some really good pictures taken, better ones than what I can take at home with my potato cam. So um, that was kind of my thought process there. But I was still disappointed I didn't even final anything. But like I said, it wasn't my best. And then this year medaled. So, but yeah, I'll dive into that more in the next video. So, all right, well, all that being said, again, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and check out the links below, and check out my Facebook, Instagram, and everything I got going on there. Greatly appreciate it, and until next time.